All right, I'm back to answer more of your questions about Team Delusional and Bethel, and we are just going to dive right in. Number 1, do you think Norman is aware of Team Delusional? I'm going to say yes on that. He's never acknowledged us directly, that's for sure, but at least not that I know of, but he's demonstrated, especially in the last, few months or year, that he definitely knows about the shippers. He's mentioned, without mentioning actual shipping fandoms several times, he's mentioned the Carolers, and it's been in a negative light because they were hating so hard on Melissa after she pulled out of the first season of Daryl Dixon spinoff, and they were hating on AMC, and they were hating on Gimple, and they were saying things about how, the company did her dirty, and, she had been fired and forced out, and all of these really awful things that had absolutely no basis in reality. And Norman said that several times. In several different interviews, he would say, well, the people who think that, it's a very small faction of people and they're just wrong, And so that tells you that he is aware of what's being said online. And I can't imagine if he is aware of them, that he's not aware of us. I think that everybody involved in the show, the writers, AMC, and therefore the actors as well, are very aware of the different factions and fandoms online, and they're definitely aware of the shipping wars. And, they're definitely aware that people want Daryl to have a love interest. And so, yeah, I don't think that there's any way that Norman isn't aware of us, given that. I think that makes it all the more interesting that neither he or any of the writers have ever actually commented on us or acknowledged us, because I think that's their way of not drawing attention to the idea that Beth could come back. Because, especially since I started doing these videos, doing them as videos rather than just posts, I've had a lot of people telling me that it's starting to change their mind about whether Beth is coming back or not. And I think that would happen en masse, if more of the general audience paid attention to what our evidence is and the things that we say. A lot more of them would believe she's coming back, and they don't want that because they want it to be a surprise. So, you know what I mean? I think there's no possible way that he's not aware of us, and that just makes the fact that they have never addressed us directly that much more suspicious. So that's my take on that. Take it or leave it. Thank you for the question. Does Gabriel still remember or think about Jadis/Anne after she and Rick left for the CRM and hadn't returned? I mean, at this point, I think it's pretty clear that he moved on from her romantically because he was with Rosita. So I'm sure he still thinks about her and remembers her from time to time, but probably just in the sense of she's an old ex-girlfriend, right? However, me and my fellow theorists have talked about this before and about how open-ended that was left, that Jadis just took off and he was upset about it. And they definitely never got to say a goodbye or have any kind of closure. And we know that Jadis is alive and well elsewhere in the world. So I do believe that at some point him and Jadis will come face to face again. They're going to have to get some kind of closure on their relationship. And that's just what this show does. It plants a seed. There has to be some reason that they put her with Father Gabriel, because it wasn't any kind of mainstream story. We didn't see this blossoming romance between them. Not really. I mean, a little bit, but it wasn't like a romance that everybody super cared about and was shipping. It was just kind of this random thing. And then for her to take off and not to be a long-term theme, it kind of felt like, well, what was the point of doing that? And so I think it was a seed that was planted because they're going to come back to it. And I don't necessarily mean that they'll be back in some huge relationship again, maybe, but I think it's more that at some point the two of them, when we get into the CRM war, Jadis is still around and her character is going to be around for a while. I think she's going to be a part of the story. So I can't imagine they won't come face to face again, and that'll be interesting when they do. So I would say yes. And I think we'll see more of that at some point in the future. All right, next one. Once again, I love your account name just because it's so many different letters, but I have no idea how to say it. Okay, but you say, I'm getting so impatient waiting for her return. I know you get it, obviously. I do. But I know it will be worth the wait. I agree. I just wanted to ask about the new Fear the Walking Dead trailer where it literally says no one's gone until they're gone. Like, I know the obvious answer is Troy, duh, but there's been so many reoccurring characters in Fear. Within 8 episodes, we've had Madison back and now Troy. Like, I feel like it's lining up perfectly with returning characters, and I remember it was probably a couple years ago. Now, I read something about your Gone theory. Excuse me, as I don't remember anything you said in it, but I think you were referring to when Daryl said to Rick that Beth is just gone, and now Fear having the Gone theme, it all lines up a little too well. I don't know how people can't see it. Yeah, agreed. So the Gone theory was very simply the words that they used. So in 4:16, which is the scene you were talking about when Rick asks Daryl if Beth is dead, he says she's just gone. And so let's talk about that phrase. You got to understand that while that phrase could mean a lot of different things, they use certain phrases in particular ways in the show. So you have to define how they use it in the show, and then you can figure out the patterns, right? On the surface level, I think it means an abrupt departure. In other words, when you didn't get to say goodbye and you didn't get closure. And the reason that I think that, to say she's just gone, it's like it just happened so suddenly, right? And Daryl actually does say that in season 3 about his mother when he's talking to Carl, that there was a house fire. She basically was smoking and burnt to death, and he was a little kid, and then he got home and his mom just wasn't there anymore. He said she was just gone. And so I think that's what it's talking about not being able to get a goodbye and it being so sudden and losing someone that way. But in terms of what was actually happening in the story, when Daryl said that, Rick asks specifically if Beth is dead. He doesn't say, where is she? Or do you know what happened to her? He says, is she dead? That's a very pointed question. And even though he doesn't say the word no, there's an implied no in there. Like, no, she's just gone. And this is a little bit of a side note, but I always thought it was really interesting that Rick didn't push Daryl to tell his story. At that point, I would be like shaking him and being like, tell your story, man. I want to know what happened, but Rick doesn't. He just kind of nods like he's okay. You know what I mean? He doesn't push him for the details. And I just always thought that was really, really interesting. Anyway, but the material point is that when that's happening, when Daryl says that she's just gone, Beth actually is still alive at that point. Now, they don't know where she is. The audience didn't know where she was. This was the end of season 4. There was a huge rumor going around the fandom that she had been cooked at Terminus and eaten, and that was not the case. So I kind of wonder if the carolers were really pushing that one. I don't remember for sure, but they didn't like the Beth and Daryl dynamic, so they would have been happy for her to be dead at Terminus. So I kind of wonder if that was coming from them. But anyway, the point is, I feel like when they say somebody's gone, it doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. It means that they were suddenly separated from the rest of the group. Maybe they're dead, but we know that very often they come back. So you're right. And that's pretty much the crux of the gone theory. And now they're saying no one's gone until they're gone. So it's like, this is the writers telling us that unless it's really obvious that they're dead. So we're talking something like Glenn and Abraham or Herschel, where there's just no way they could have survived, as in without their head, or, if we see them turn into a walker, that's pretty much something they're not coming back from, something like that. And if that's not the case, it is possible for people to come back. Now, most people would say that is true of Beth, that she got shot in the head and you can't come back from that. But we have proven over and over and over again that her headshot was very, very survivable. And people just don't understand that much about the anatomy of the brain and the truth about headshots. They just don't understand it, and that's fine. But yeah, you're definitely thinking along the right lines here. The fact that they're using the gone theme here, we definitely saw it around Beth. She even said it to Daryl, you're going to miss me so bad when I'm gone. She didn't say you're going to miss me so bad when I'm dead. She said you're going to miss me so bad when I'm gone, and gone implies that there could be a return. So yeah, and then yeah, with Madison coming back and Troy coming back, and I've seen a lot of people who have made comments about Troy saying, 2 blows to the head and homeboy's back, okay. And so they really didn't think he could come back from that. But even if they might think it's unrealistic, I'm not saying it is, but they might think it is, we are seeing kind of a lot of acceptance at this point that, all right, they're bringing him back, okay. And that's a good thing because they'll be able to accept Beth's return too. So yeah, excellent question. I haven't really thought about the gone theory in a long time, so thanks for asking that. All right. Hi, I've been a Bethel shipper forever. I just recently started getting active on Tumblr and diving deeper into the fandom. I've been watching all of your recaps and answers to asks. Before watching your stuff, I was not a believer that Beth was alive, but watching and listening to your content and several others has started to change my mind. Oh, I'm glad. I'm dipping my toe into become a true TDer. I remember being there too. Yeah. I'm hesitantly hopeful that she may make a return, especially with Troy and Madison's return on Fear. I have 2 questions. Can you expand more on the missing 17 days? And if the writers plan to bring her back all along, why did they wait till now? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so the missing 17 days happened right after Coda. Obviously, the last thing we see in Coda was Daryl carrying Beth out into the parking lot, and we never see her body again. We never see what happened to her. The next episode, which was 509, What Happened and What is Going On, is about Tyrese's death. And we see a burial going on at the beginning. And so a lot of people, understandably, assumed that that was Beth's burial. But then when we get to the end of the episode, we learn that it wasn't hers. It was Tyrese's all along. And we were just seeing it at the beginning, sort of a foreshadow. And then we see him die. And then we see it again at the end. And we realize that that is him being buried. So Beth's body just disappeared. Like, we have no idea what happened to her. And given that she was such an important part of the story, an important part of the storyline, so important to Daryl and to Maggie and to everybody, it's really odd that they never showed us what happened to her. Did they bury her? You would imagine they always talk about how they bury their own. And if there isn't a body because, walkers have eaten them or something, they still create a grave, because that's how they pay respect to their own. So it's really odd that they didn't show us that. Meanwhile, on The Talking Dead after 509, Nicotero was on. Nicotero always likes to give us good nuggets. And somebody, or I assume it was Chris, asked, how long has it been since Coda? And without any hesitation at all, Nicotero said 17 days. And we're going, okay, that is weirdly specific, 17 days. Okay, so that's where we got the missing 17 days. Now, the reason we know that there was really important stuff that happened there is because of other things that were leaked during filming and then things that have come out since. So we know that when they were filming Coda, there were 800 Walker experts in Atlanta. Now, nowhere in that episode or any others did we see 800 Walkers. So we don't know what they were filming with all of those extras, but we have some guesses, which I'll get to in a minute. So there's that. There were also leaked pictures of them filming at a white church, and there were leaked pictures of someone that looked like Emily, so it was either her or her stunt double. But if it's her stunt double, then obviously Beth is there too, right? Going into a cabin, a white van, which is often used to transport the actors with the tinted windows, was seen pulling up really close to the house, but she was seen going in. And there was this really suspicious thing where as soon as that hit the airwaves that she had been seen filming, Emily tweeted she was going to the movies with somebody, and everybody kind of had to laugh and be like, yeah, nice try, Emily. They told her to do that because she had been seen. And it was really obvious. Like, even the spoiler side at the time, which was Spoiling the Dead, which is not in operation anymore, they actually hated Beth. They didn't like her character. And even they had to laugh at how obvious that was, So it was clear that she was filming there. That's all. So we have evidence of scenes that were filmed that we still have not seen. And if they were just, people try to say, oh, they were just scenes that were cut. They're like, what do you call that? When you get like DVD extras and they're scenes that didn't make it into the film. But that's not the case. Like, we can tell that it's not. Number one, because they were there for days and days. It was a huge sequence, and they wouldn't spend that kind of money and then just cut the entire thing. And if for some reason they did, we would have seen it come out as a DVD extra. It would have been in the deleted scenes of season 5, and there was nothing like that. So they are holding on to those scenes because we're going to see them at some point in the future. The other thing is, and this didn't come out until a few years later, there was a trading card, and I do have a post about this, where it talks about Daryl trying to bury Beth at a white church. And that was really shocking. I actually had people contacting me saying, what the hell is this? Like, we didn't see this. Are they just making shit up now? Or am I missing something? And it's true. We never saw that. But we did see, like I said, the stuff that was leaked about them filming at a white church. So they filmed something there that we have not seen. Okay. And according to that trading card, it just says that they attempted to bury her And it didn't go so well. So anyway, this is stuff that Team Delusional has pieced together over years and years of really, really digging. And obviously, we still don't know all the details. There's plenty of stuff we don't know about what happened during those missing 17 days. But what the prevailing theories are in general is that they did take Beth to a church to try and bury her. They might have even had some sort of funeral ceremony, but they didn't get around to the actual burial because a huge horde, that 800 walkers, came through and they had to get out of there. And actually, Father Gabriel's church being overrun by walkers in Coda was a foreshadow of this. We just never actually saw the payoff of that foreshadow, but I think we will at some point in the future. So they couldn't really take her with them because in their mind, she is dead. She's dead weight, and they have to safeguard the living. But they also don't want these walkers to eat her, desecrate her body. So they put her in a car of some kind, maybe in a trunk. There's lots of different theories about which car it was, whether it was one of the ones that we actually saw at Grady. But whatever the case, they put her in the back of a car. And this is actually why we see... Well, I'll get to that in a minute. We believe they put her in a car and then they had to run to get away from the walkers, but they were hoping the car would protect her from those walkers, and then they could come back in a few days and finish the burial once the horde had moved through and it was safe again. So in 509, when we see them running toward the white van, all of the Rick and Daryl and team family, that they're running to get away from the walkers. Okay. And then they have to get in the cars and go. And then we do believe that they went back for her, but when they got there, the car door was open and she was gone. And that is why we see Maggie in 509 sitting outside the car. Like the camera is inside the car looking out and the door is open. We can see Maggie crying. It's because they went back for her body and it wasn't there. And it's not that we think that they ever thought she was alive. Because she was shot in the head, they didn't bother to stab her in the brain or anything. So maybe that occurred to them that the shot, even though it killed her, was, they think, was too high. And we believe that they think she turned into a walker and somehow got out of the car. And so this is the other thing, this is why in 515, when Daryl is with Aaron and they find that girl tied to the tree that the wolves left there that's blonde, he has to look into her face. It's like, it would be illogical for that to actually be Beth as a walker, even if she was dead, even if she had turned. The chances of her being in DC when they left her, as a walker in Georgia, it just wouldn't be terribly logical. But it's like, Daryl was so traumatized by that he has to look into her face and make sure that it's not her. You know what I mean? It's very telling the way that he does that. And of course it's not. And we don't believe that she did turn. We believe someone came and got her and she was taken somewhere else. Maybe back to Grady. There's theories about maybe it was Morgan who found her. I mean, all kinds of things. But the point is, there was a lot that went on during that missing 17 days and they didn't show it to us. And there's a reason they didn't show it to us. They didn't want it in the viewers' minds that she might be alive somewhere. Okay, they wanted us to believe that she's been dead all these years. And the fact that they didn't show it to us is what makes it so suspicious. If she really is dead and gone, why not show it to us? Why not give it to us back in season 5 rather than waiting? So that's kind of my rundown on the missing 17 days. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of other things. There was a report of some big car chase that happened around Terminus that we never saw, and I don't know what, if anything, that has to do with Beth. But the point is, there's a lot more detail than what I've gone over here, but that's the basic gist. Is we believe that they tried to bury her, it didn't go well, they left her behind. When they came back for her, she was gone. They think that she turned, and they never found her body. And that is probably why Daryl was pissed off at Rick during the first part of 5B. Remember, he wouldn't talk to him. He kept going off on his own. He was just really, really surly. I think it's because Rick made him leave and stop looking for Beth, or something along those lines. Like I said, there's all kinds of theories you can dive into, and we don't know for sure all of the details, but that's the gist. To answer your second question, if the writers planned to bring her back all along, why did they wait? I think that they were always going to wait a while. I think they always knew that it would be, I don't know if they originally planned on 10 seasons, maybe, or 10 years. I guess I shouldn't say 10 seasons, 10 years. Maybe they did, but I also think that they thought it would be more like season 9 or 10 when she came back, and things just changed. I mean, I think the story got kind of lengthened out more than they thought it would. I mean, we do know that Andy was originally going to leave in season 8 and he waited until season 9. So little things like that happened that just took longer than they thought. And then, of course, there was COVID, which lengthened things out. And I think it just overall, like most things, it just took longer than they thought it would originally. But I do think that they were always planning to have it be years before she and Daryl saw each other again. So I think it's always been a plan that's been on the books, but they have had to pivot a few times and change things, and it's just, taken a little bit longer than anybody thought it would. So, and that's just my 2 cents. I always say I hope that at some point Gimple comes out and tells us what happened, the whole plan, what everything means, and I don't think that will happen for years to come, because I think they have a lot more story to tell, but I hope eventually one day he'll come out or, write us a book about the symbolism or something, just for all of us geeks that really want to know what he was thinking when he put that in there, that sort of thing. So we don't know for sure, but that would be my best guess, is it's just taking a little bit longer, but this has also been the plan all along, even if it had to kind of change and lengthen out along the way. Okay, I'm actually running a bit long here, so I'm going to call it there for today, and I will be back to answer more questions tomorrow. Thank you so much for your questions, and yeah, tune in tomorrow. Bye.